I just got a brand new electric griddle in, something I can use indoors to get out of the extreme heat down here in South Mississippi. It is a Vevor 4400 watt, very powerful electric griddle. I'm going to show you all the pros and cons to this griddle and let you decide for yourself if it would be a fit for you. And I'm also going to give you recommendations at the end of this video, what I would recommend for a lot of people. Stay tuned. Alrighty, so here it is right here. You can see just how long this griddle is. Now, I've already heated this up. That's the reason you see some discoloration on it. And I've only got one coat of oil. Today I'm going to go ahead and completely season this. Here's a front view here. Now the actual griddle plate on the website, it says it comes in at 29 inches, but I do see this referred to a lot of times as a 30 inch, and I'm going to actually show you the actual dimension of this. But take a look at that heavy actual griddle plate itself. That comes in at 10 millimeter or 0.39 inches, which means it's a little over 3/8. That is between 3/8 and a half of an inch thick. That's pretty heavy. All right, so to give you an overall dimension of what this actually is, this is from outside to outside. It is 28 and 5/8 of an inch. So I call it a 30 inch. In reality, it's a little under 29 inches, but it's got a lot of room here, and that's the reason I wanted this one. Now this is a commercial griddle, but it's 2-burner. Now the reason that I wanted this much room, even here at home, even though this is considered a commercial griddle, is because I always like a cooler zone. This burner here would heat this half up. There's 2 burners through here. This is one of them. It's right up underneath this cast iron. That is cast iron, by the way. The rest of this is stainless steel construction. Then there's another burner right here. Now the way I would typically use this when I'm cooking is I would have this one up to heat, whatever I'm doing. If I'm doing smash burgers, 450 degrees. If I'm doing thick burgers, 350 degrees. It really depends on what I'm cooking. And this would heat this up, and it would slowly, if I only had this one burner, this would slowly heat up. And even back here it would be warm. It would be warm all the way to here. Now if it wasn't warm enough, I could always bring this other half in just a little bit, just enough to bring it where I want it, or leave it completely off. But I love 2-zone cooking. If you're doing a burger and it's done, slide it over here. Bacon, same thing. Vegetables, same thing. Do your buns last or do them first. Keep them warm, however you want to do it. That's why I picked this bigger griddle. Now, so you do know, this is 4,400 watts of power. That is a powerful griddle, and it does operate at 220 through 240 volts. I've got 240 volts here where I live. So just keep that in mind before you pull the trigger on this griddle. It does require 220 through 240 volts. So the website actually calls this 230 volt, and that's because over in China, that's exactly what they use, is 230 volts. But it don't matter if it's 220, 230, 240, it's all the same thing. Their households over there is going to operate off 230 volts. They do not have 110 volts. And I gotta tell you, this was a little confusing to me when I first got it in. I've done electrical work most of my life, and this does not come with a plug. What it did come with is a power cord, as you see here. Now I added this plug. This is just a 240 volt welding machine plug, and I had to add that to this cord. But before adding that plug, there was 3 wires in behind here, and each one had a little eyelet, and each one had a label. And on the label, it actually said hot wire on the black. That's in here, and on the white wire it said neutral. All right, and then it had a green wire calling for ground, but that's universal. Green normally means equipment ground, and so that part's the same. But what confused me is here in the US, black with a neutral is a 120 volt circuit. And that's my first thing. I said, this must work at 120 volts because you got black as your hot wire, you got white as your neutral wire. Well, with further investigation, it did come with a few little wiring diagrams, and they're showing it actually hooking to like a black hot wire and a red hot wire, not using a neutral wire if your cable has that, mine doesn't, and hooking up to equipment ground. So if you happen to get this, don't let that confuse you. What you want to do is hook one leg of power, 120 volts, up to your black wire, and then your other leg of power, the other 120 volts that comes in here in the US, you want to hook that to your white wire and then hook up your ground, and it works beautiful. That was a little confusing to say the least, but I sorted it out. So if you are buying this for your home, then I would call that a con, because you know, 240 volts, most homes have it, but it's usually dedicated circuits for like your dryer, if you have an electric dryer, or you have a dedicated circuit for your outside air conditioning unit, your condensing unit. And in my case, I have a 240 volt out in my garage that is for a new weld machine I just bought. Matter of fact, I ran that 240 volt circuit out there myself. It's a 50 amp. And if you'll look right here, you'll see where I'm plugged up to that. I've got a 25-foot extension, 240 volts, 50 amp circuit, which can handle this bad boy any day of the week. Now, is that an ideal situation? No. I would rather have 240 volts in my kitchen, but I don't, because I have a gas stove. Everything in here is pretty much gas water heater, gas furnace, gas stove. Now, a lot of homes do have electric stoves and ranges and such as that, and you would have 240 volts available to you. The only problem with that is you'd probably have to unplug your stove in order to use this. So to me, that's a con as far as using this for household use. This is strictly commercial. If you got a food truck that runs off 240 volts, or a restaurant or anything like that, this would probably be a great option for you, especially at the price point. That's one thing about Vevor. You'll get pretty good bang for your buck usually. I mean, just look at it. That's definitely commercial quality. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. Now, you do have a green power light when it's plugged up, and it currently is plugged up once you actually turn that thermostat. And by the way, that is in Fahrenheit. If you look right here, you have a conversion, Fahrenheit to centigrade. You could use this anywhere in the world, really, and know what temperature you're at. Same thing over here on this one. 2 individual controls. So the griddle itself I love. Right here is your drain port for your grease. You would just pull all your grease off your top here, and it would go down into this lower section and work its way into here. You have a pull-out drawer. That's where all your grease would collect. All right, now I did have one issue with this unit. I've seen other videos on this unit, and it was never talked about as being an issue, but I'll show you how mine arrived. Everything was perfect, just like you see, but it come with a bag with 4 rubber feet that goes on the bottom here. You got to have that clearance, and the reason being, it's got a bottom plate on the bottom that's got air vents, just like right here, just like these vents, and that's for ventilation. You got to have that clearance. But the problem is, when I flipped this up on its side to screw these in, there was nothing there to screw them into. I mean, nothing. There was nothing up in here that was threaded that would accept that. So what I ultimately did was I removed this bottom plate. It's just a series of screws down each side. And I took a washer and I found the right size nuts that fits the threaded part on this rubber feet. I found the right size nuts. I put some washers and I fixed it right to the plate itself, screwed it back on, no problem. Full disclosure, Vevor did send me this griddle and I requested it. They didn't reach out to me, I reached out to them, and this is the one I wanted. And ultimately they said that they would rather send me a different model. The one they was wanting to send me works off of 110, and I think it was 1600 watts, which would work perfect on any 20 amp outlet easily, because I think that would pull around 15 amps. and you could use that. And if that's what you're looking for, I'll have a link in the description for not only this one, but I'll have a link in the description for the 120 volt 1600 watt. Now it's only got one big burner, and it's only 21 or 22 inches. Not much smaller than this, and it too has the heavy cast iron and everything, but it will work off of 120. Might not heat up as rapid because it doesn't have the power this one has, but it will get there. It will definitely get there. But you don't have to worry about 240 volts or anything like that. So I will put a link in there for that one and also this one. This comes in right now on their website at $241. Now, if you register, I think you can get it even cheaper than that. They did not give me a code or anything or any kind of savings, but it's pretty inexpensive on its own. I went to Amazon just to check out a comparable griddle, and all I could find was also made over in China or somewhere in Asia, and they were up to like $550, $600 for something just like this. This one comes in at $241. Now you're probably asking yourself, will it hold up? Well, I certainly hope so, and that's what I have noticed. I own a lot of different Vevor products, sausage stuffers, big heavy-duty 10-quart stand mixer, ice machines, all sorts of products. And the thing about them, or at least the equipment they get, it's all pretty well built. All the windings in the motors are copper wound. All the wiring in this is copper. The element, I could see the little ends of it when I took this bottom cover off. Big, heavy, nice element. Now, only time will tell how it holds up, you know. If I could get years and years of use out of this, yeah, absolutely. And if you're buying and paying for it at $241, and this thing will literally last for years. And think about your electric oven. How often do you have to change out an element, a broiler or a bake element? Hardly ever. They will go out eventually. But for that price, just, you know, not a big deal. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and probably smoke myself out of here. I wanna go ahead and turn this one. I'm just gonna turn it straight down. I think that was around the 350 degree mark, somewhere right in there. I'm gonna go over here and do this one. This is probably one of the few times you'll see me use both burners on this, because like I said earlier, when I cook, I'll probably just use one burner, use this as my cool zone. But I'm gonna go ahead and let this be preheating. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start applying more oil. I'm gonna do that about 4 or 5 times just to get a really good finish on this, a non-stick surface. One thing I want to mention, if you go to the Vevor website, they do have some, they call it 110 volts, 3,000 watts. Now, do your math with Ohm's law on that. If you got a 3,000 watt machine at 120 volts, that's putting out, well, let me just see what it's putting out. I got an app on my phone. Right there it is right here. 120 volts at 1,800 watts is 15 amps. But what if I change that wattage to 3,000? Now it's pulling 25 amps. So most households in the US have either 15 amp or 20 amp circuits at 120 volts. So this would exceed even the 20 amp. There again, you would have to have a dedicated circuit, and you would want to run a 30 amp breaker. So before you just pull the trigger on anything, make sure you understand and know the power consumption and how it relates to what you have in your house. Size of wiring, circuit size, amps, and all that stuff. That's the reason I'm going over that a little bit more than what I should. Normally this would just be a review on this product, but the fact that it does call for 240 volts, then you know you need to know that before you actually buy this, because the other one I mentioned, the 1600 watt, or if you can find one even in the 1800 watt, I don't know if they have that, but I know they have a 1600 watt. It's 21 inches, almost the size of this one, just as heavy, that'll work off of 120. That might be a better option for you if you're in the market. Plus it's a lot cheaper. I think it came in at $139, but built just the same controls, everything about it. Now I apologize for the color on this one camera. I have incandescent lighting in my dining room here, so that's going to give it more of a yellowish tinge, but it's good enough I think for this video. I'm going to go ahead and get my oil and put a little down and rub it in, and I'm going to wait for it to start smoking, and then when it stops smoking I'll apply more, And I'll just keep doing that for 4 or 5 times, and then that should be good enough. But before I do that, I did want to show you that this also comes with a couple of spatulas, 2 spatulas and 2 basting brushes. Now I've already got and on a lot of different size spatulas and basting brushes. But one thing, if you don't have it, get yourself a good laser thermometer. It's almost a must-have. I don't know if you can see that, but 213 degrees on this side, trailing a little bit right here, not by much. No, it's 216. So 216 here, 213 here. About another 100 degrees and we'll be able to start seasoning this, but I want to get the oil on right now. So the first thing I did yesterday before ever firing this up and heating it up was there is like a wax paper that's on this actual griddle part, the cast iron. I peeled it off, and under that is a layer of some kind of grease, not sure what, but I took some soapy water, just regular dish detergent, and I washed this thoroughly and got all of that off of there. And all the water can drain right down here, and got it good and clean before I ever fired this thing up. And that's the one and only time it's going to look like that. Once you heat it up, it's going to start getting this patina look, and I'll get darker and deeper as it goes. Now you can use whatever kind of oil you like to season with. I've just got some canola oil here, and we're just going to put us a little bit through here, like so. Get you a paper towel with some tongs, and you don't want to puddle up nothing. You want just a very thin coat. I'm already smelling that. Like I said, this will actually go to smoking. Then once the smoking stops, then you can apply more. Some people tell you to let it cool completely down in between each time of doing this. And I kind of did do that because, like I said, I applied the first coat yesterday, then I let it cool completely off. But just make sure you don't puddle up any of this oil, just on a very thin coat. This will prevent rust. This also gives it somewhat of a non-stick surface. So I'm not going to show you every time I do this. Just know and trust that I'm going to be doing this probably over the next hour, and I might have to crack a window because this will start putting out some smoke. It can also burn your eyes. That's just part of it. It's just like seasoning up a new cast iron skillet that hasn't been seasoned. Same thing. All right, you can see that smoke starting to come off on this. Just for kicks and grins, I want to see how hot this is. All right, I'm at 403 degrees, so I want to cut this back some. Now, I will tell you this, when you first fire it up, until this thing gets heated up, you're going to hear some sharp pops and things like that. That's just metal expanding that's never been heated before. Now, today when I'm heating it up, I don't hear any of that. I don't hear any of it. I hear the cast iron heating up, but that's about it. If you notice, it stopped smoking. So this is where you want to go down with a little bit more oil. Don't go crazy with it. Grab my tongs because this paper towel does get hot. So I'll bring you back and we'll close this video out, because this is about the only thing I can think of to show you on this. And if I think of anything else, I'll let you know. Well, I'll tell you what, that is a bad mama jama, man. I could hear the power going through that. And for the record, 4,400 watts at 240 volts, it's pulling 18 amps. And that's not bad. Now, this might not be for you because of what I've already said, but if you would like a powerful grill that's built to the same quality and everything at a very low price, then I'll have a link for the 1,600 watt at 120 volts. But like I also said, if you got a food truck, a restaurant, or if you want 240 in your house, because this thing is a powerhouse, then I'll have a link to this one as well. Hope y'all enjoyed it, and hey, there's going to be videos coming. The whole reason for me getting this, I might have said it earlier, was because of it's so stinking hot outside. You notice I haven't been putting out a lot of content this summer because of this extreme heat. The last thing I want to do is fire a grill or smoke or anything up until we get into some cooler weather. So that had everything to do with me picking this one, and I wanted that extra size. And I hope I made sense with everything. But at any rate, thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of it. And like I said, links are in the description. Appreciate you watching.